In 2020 and 21, the salad days of the pandemic, I used to do these long-form rundown videos of the rallies held by these cheeky buggers behind me, the anti-lockdown movement. Sometimes I'd even assemble these big sprawling videos looking at the simultaneous rallies held across multiple states that they used to do back then in their heyday. But that was then. You know, I think the movement formally died just after the 2022 federal election. You know, that movement directed all of its remaining energy to getting Clive Palmer or whatever other opportunistic far-right party that was telling it exactly what it wanted to hear over the line. And then when that didn't work, they died in the arse. Mostly, we're just looking at the corpse of the freedom movement, except that corpse briefly dug its way out of the grave to go and shamble around Melbourne last weekend, just like the good old days. They got the band back together, so I'm getting my band back together too. Except the only difference is my band is just me on my own in front of a computer, downloading hundreds of clips and crying.
One thing I'm not going to support is this bullshit mission to Melbourne convoy that's happening. People that are wanting to do this mission to Melbourne are not from Melbourne. Why? We don't need rescuing. But we've all seen that the protests for this bullshit agenda with the mandates and the jab and all of that, our protests did jack shit for any change of policy. So please don't go to this mission. I'm just asking you guys. If you want to go, go. But I know there's no way in the world I'm not.
This is Tammy. I suppose I'd describe Tammy as a crystal, alt medicine, normie wine mum who found her second wind as an anti-lockdown influencer and now puts together swish rallies with merch.
We'll be stopping at all the places except for the Westgate Bridge because it's too far away, but stopping at all the places where people were actually shot at and faced a bit of the tyrannical behaviours that happened on the streets during that time. The nature of the march is to honour your people and what happened.
So why don't we draw up the aims of the mission to Melbourne? Aim 1, definitely, is to reminisce over the anti-lockdown movement's greatest hits. This has already been happening for some time now, because remember, this time a year ago was the absolute peak of the movement. What they really want to do is go back. Remember a month ago that they were already reminiscing outside the CFMAU.
Every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day.
And on the 22nd of September, just recently, they also held an anniversary rally for when they went to wee on the Shrine of Remembrance. On that same day, on the 22nd, an Indigenous rights-focused and anti-monarchist Abolish the Monarchy rally was held in Melbourne by WAR, Warriors of the Aboriginal Resistance. This Indigenous rights rally, organised by WAR, and the Cooker rallies celebrating the anniversary of weeing on the Shrine, they briefly met up. And the Cookers had no fucking idea why they weren't having the red carpet rolled out for them. Here, listen to my mate and comrade Jay giving him what for. He's a fucking legend.
Say we fucking, say we don't stand.
Yeah, right. You're with us and you're carrying a Union Jack.
Hey?
You're carrying a Union Jack and you're with us.
Much love, mate, right?
Yeah, much love. Get rid of the Union Jack and we'll be all good. Get rid of that fucking Union Jack.
Hey, can you go back up that way, please?
I'm good here. Then get rid of the Union Jack. Get rid of the Union Jack and you're on our side. Otherwise, shut the fuck up.
Scobie from the excellent What's Doing Media, I hope you're all following them, happened to be in the area on the day and went up to go and ask these guys, or some of them, if they understood why they weren't being welcomed, or what the problem was. Turns out they didn't really get it.
Yeah, we're actually supporting you guys.
That's
And you guys,
Hey,
what the hell?
they've told us that there's Antifa in there and they want to kill us and all the rest. We protest every Saturday. Today is the anniversary of 1 year that we were shot at the Shrine. Okay, they've opened fire on citizens that were fighting for the freedoms of not just Victorians but Australians. They opened fire on us. These riot police. We're all stoked that Lizzie the fucking lizard's dead. The hologram.
You don't think that?
I don't think. The stuff that's on your signs, we agree with this shit, mate.
If we can get 1 million people in one place at the same time, we definitely need to use those
numbers of people to really stand our ground. We want Dan Andrews trialled. We would like him to go to trial. We would like him to be held accountable.
So aim 2 is to make the anti-lockdown movement relevant in the Victorian state election and put Dan Andrews on trial. If your rally is big enough, that's like, bam, Dan's on trial. Finally, the third and ultimate aim, which we already know about, is get the band back together. The movement will not accept gracefully that its old glory days are done. So Tammy went along and organised poppies for everyone to wear, like proper Anzacs would. She started selling very expensive merch, fucking of course, and she organised some other figureheads to rock up with her.
Yeah, it's got big backing. We're going to have a very strong front line. We need to have a strong front line in Melbourne.
Just so you know, what a strong front line means in practice is it means the assistance of people like fellow anti-lockdown figurehead Tritty Tricky from Queensland.
But so we just touched down, guys. A bit delayed, but we're here now. A bit fresh. So we're really looking forward to get cracking tomorrow and mixing it up with the Melbourne crowd.
Tricky runs the Guardians, who are kind of like Queensland's answer to Melbourne's peacekeepers, who I know I've discussed on this channel before. We're talking about kind of security groups run by amateurs who front up to coppers or counter-protesters and such. It actually recently came out from an ex-member of the Guardians that Tricky was offering the money last year to bash counter-protesters in Brisbane.
$400. Actually, this one happened on a Zoom conference. Tricky's probably recorded it. $400 to pay people to take care of any protesters.
Other figureheads who were planned to attend included the People's Champ, our favourite on this channel, old Captain Graham Pornhub Hoodie, who we've discussed here, along with his demonic sexual proclivities. The suspended Dr. Bay, who, also came up on this channel quite recently. And Michael Gray Griffith, who is a very popular figurehead, actually. He's an embittered ex-playwright turned conspiracist who has had numerous allegations of sexual assault levelled at him recently by the movement. So, with these three aims in mind, reminisce over greatest hits, be relevant in the state election, and get the band back together, the mission to Melbourne was born. I'm sorry to be a negative Nelly here, but there's a small problem with this. Here's the original flyer. But the state of emergency ended last year, back when that bill that they all tried so hard to kill got introduced. Oops. So, then they had to go and change their flyer to make it say, end the pandemic declaration instead they've overlaid the text. But the problem with this is that it turns out that even the pandemic declaration is ending on Wednesday. Double oops. Next thing you know, there's a big old convoy of East Coast flogs coming down to Melbourne. They even had an itinerary. Let's have a look. Meet at fucking Aussie World up in the sunny coast. Where else, mate? Head down via Brizzy, down to the Goldie, through fucking Byron, etc, blah blah. Meet you at the Caltex, get a fucking pie, meet you on the Pacific Highway. Live streamer Anthony Burge humbly estimated 14 million cars.
From what I can see, there's about maybe 500 to 1,000 cars. Maybe.
He was the guy with remember the candy canes from late last year? That guy. Listen, you can start talking to me once you start on camera. Hang on a sec, don't move back. Start eating the candy cane.
I'm not eating no candy cane right now.
The rappers can be tricky.
You fucking eat that shit. I mean, thank you.
You're not allowed to crunch it either.
Thanks, mate.
On the way down, in this convoy, there were some cookers discussing in the Telegram voice chat that sagely warned each other that if they do anything bad at these events, it's you-know-who's fault.
In other words, I was also saying, watch out for the Antifa crew. They might be doing things like throwing bricks and stones and all that shit, so just be really, really careful. Because that's what they're like in America, and these Aussie versions of Antifa, especially the lefty soy boys of Melbourne, they're the wannabe tryhards like the ones in America. So, yeah, this is Australia, not America.
If you shit your pants in public, it's Antifa's fault. Blame Antifa. Everyone's on their way to Melbourne. And for better or for worse, I think worse in this case, that includes a guy called Brad. who is Brad? Well, I don't know where to start. He's a loose unit. Have a look at Brad. Meet Brad.
Hotel Frankston, but we're going into Melbourne tonight. But what's it say here? Fuck this government. Fuck all governments. Rise up, Australia. Men of Australia, time to step up and be real men. Protect your kids or go down biggest cowards this country has ever seen. Come on, Frankston, enough's enough. Time to fight for the kids. Yeah. Hang that Andrews. Fuck it, this is a home fucking town where I raise my kids. Come on, Frankston, come on, Victoria.
Please don't forget his face, because Brad and his aura of chaos will be rejoining us later. So here's the list of activities planned for the mission to Melbourne. This shit is more packed than a Club Med itinerary, except for it involves a lot more walking. Once all the convoy cars got into Melbourne, look, they did some shit speeches, blah blah blah, the usual, and then they all went and they had a bit of a reminisce together.
The fact that we're going past this place in itself, this building right here, what people forget was the fucking trauma that happened here last year. Over fucking 12 months later, people are still hurt. Right in front of the Cineview building. A lot of angst, a lot of outpour of emotion.
I clearly recall that you all loved it and you all went for a big walk on the West Gate afterwards, and it was rad, and frankly I was jealous. Don't tell me it's traumatic. So anyway, that was day one, Friday the 7th. 8th of October, the Saturday, that was the big day one. Righto, what have we got today, guys? What have we got on the itinerary? We got a planned Assange human chain, so some Julian Assange stuff. We've got an Ungag the Doctors March, and we've got hanging out outside Government House. 8th of October in Melbourne was, to say the least, a bit confusing, because you actually had 3 factions all invading the city. You had 1, the Mission to Melbourne; 2, the radical anti-abortion fundamentalist Bernie Finn's March for the Babies. That was the focus of my last video. And 3, the pro-choice counter to that March for the Babies. Now, what happens in Melbourne when you get 3 protest factions? I'll tell you, you actually get 4. The 4th rally is the state rally, when Vic Pol's ample stormtrooper faction, they all rock up on their war horses and stuff, bring out all their toys and show off how big their guns are. A handful of cheeky, clever anti-abortion folk made these alternate flyers just to try and shave off some of the Cooker rally to be at the Parliament steps instead, to ideally counter the pro-choice counter to the March for the Babies. I told you this would be a confusing day. So the pro-choice faction were smart. They got out early and they occupied the steps first, and then they did so throughout the morning. And that displacement did lead to an awkward situation for some of these cookers who were loitering the area. Now, I said I've been fond of some of the movement over the years, and I have. But I think the single faction of the movement that I've hated the most has been what I've regularly described as the pedophile fantasist lot. I did a whole video on the subject earlier this year. Check it out if you haven't already. Animal Justice Party MP Andy Meddick knows about these people better than most. He's been personally targeted by pedophile fantasists who didn't like his role in helping get the Pandemic Declaration Bill of 2021 across the line. You'll remember their late 2021 Kill the Bill campaign. Some of the independent MPs who helped get that bill across the line included Andy, along with Fiona Patten of the Reason Party and Samantha Ratnam of the Greens. Because they disagreed with these politicians, they called them all, what else, pedophiles. Now, Andy was with the pro-choice rally on the morning of the 8th, and he had a run-in with some of these scumbags. So I had a chat to Andy about it.
I was standing on the road side of the footpath, if you like, at the Parliament steps. A woman who, I didn't see her coming because there were a bunch of people there and she was stepping around them clearly, and I didn't see her coming. And as I stepped out, she walked straight into me. And I looked up and said, sorry, I didn't see you there. And she just abused me and gave me a bit of a shove with the drums and stuff. And it was like, okay, that's fine, you know. I know who you are, at least I don't know who you are, but I know the group that you're with. I understand that you're going to be a bit antsy towards me, whatever. It wasn't too long after that, probably only 15 minutes or so, I think. A couple came through wearing that, you know, the March to Melbourne T-shirts. You know, you have to understand, because of what's happened with me and my family, when I'm in a public scenario like that, I'm always looking around. I'm always on alert in case someone comes. And I saw this guy eyeing me off, and as he got closer, you know, he mouthed the words, F off at me, when he got right up close to me. Lo and behold, within about 20 seconds, he comes racing back with, might have been his partner, but the person who he was walking with, and started having a real crack and wanted to let go at me physically. And I have to say, I'm quite disappointed in the police reaction, because they stood up on the steps and didn't move, and it was left to some of the organisers and others to actually jump in between and stop this guy from coming over. And then a few more of them came over after that and wanted to have a bit of a go. And again, they stood back. And it was only after it looked like it might escalate that police actually came down the steps and told them to go back to where they were standing.
I naively thought that the campaign against Andy must have died with the Kill the Bill campaign. It turns out I was completely wrong. This is a small excerpt from a flyer that was being distributed just last week by these pedophile fantasists about Andy. I blurred out part of this excerpt. I've had to leave out a lot of the rest of this 2-page flyer because it's too graphic, and it's frankly some of the most vile shit I've read. And remember, there are people in this movement who are just making this stuff up to make Andy look bad. Andy's had these people come to his house, terrorise and assault his family. He's had the obligatory thousands of threats, but he's not deterred. And the fact of the matter is, the rest of that movement let these parasites through the door. I asked Andy what he thought about the fence sitters of a movement that refused to take responsibility for the scumbags that they kept standing next to.
I have had lots of people that, you know, friends and others who marched with these people in those larger marches that took place last year and earlier this year, you know, and you know, we know that there were neo-Nazis in those groups. We know there were white supremacists, and we know that there were political parties that are who have homophobic and transphobic views, and that they have all these horrible far-right white supremacist views. And they're hiding behind this veneer of we're looking out for the children, and they're not. That's not their concern at all. They're using it as a banner to draw these other people to them, and they're taking advantage of them for their own ends. And these people that I know that marched with them, you know, I've said to them two things. We know that they were there. You knew that they were there. Don't tell me that it's sad that some of these groups infiltrated your marches. They weren't your marches. These marches were organised by those groups, and you played into their hands, either knowingly or naively, but you still did. And you had a choice at that point. You could march with them still, knowing that they were there, or you could walk away. And you chose not to walk away. That tells me everything about whose side you're on.
As is an annual tradition, a pack of legends repeatedly interrupted the anti-abortion fundamentalist kooks at the March for the Babies. And anyway, we're getting distracted by real protests. Enough of that. Back to the cookers.
We are live on Princess Bridge in South Bank, and in about 5 minutes' time, Julian Assange's brother will be here, and we are going to form a chain link.
Suspended Dr. Bay, look at him. Look at how suspended he is. He always looks like a big baby in his big blue costume and his dumb red hat. Boo, shame. Oh, look at him. He's an angry judge. Ah, a bit of theatre.
and kick off the worldwide.
It's going completely around that bridge and around on both sides.
Cunts are full holding hands and shit all around the full bridge and shit, mate. For Assange, the hacker.
The forces were withdrawn and peace began. So the cables, the leaks that WikiLeaks published brought an end to a war and the beginnings of peace. I'll just finish off with the usual chant. Please.
Oh, he's a sweetie pie, his dad. But these people are fucking gumbies, mate. You know? Tammy Jane's got all those chants she writes up. She loves it. This is a big exciting moment to shine. Show off her chants.
How are all you freedom fighters doing today?
You freedom fighters, yeah! Woo!
Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen of Australia, Mr. Graham.
Yeah! The captain! We love the captain, the Qantas King.
Welcome to Melbourne, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking.
Oh my god. I love this fucking rank old showman. Fucking, see those pants are actually black. They're just cum stained. How many shots do you say no more? Hey, shot, two, shot, two, shot, ha! How many? Dancing with my homies in a red flag capes. All I want to see is that they don't really care about us. Jordan Andrews! Jordan Andrews! A mate saw later in the Arvo when they were all, as you heard earlier, dancing to Michael Jackson. There was a guy holding a normalising a paedophile not okay sign while everyone was dancing to Michael Jackson. Anyway, but that was the daytime. And something changed as the sun began to set and all the more normal ones left. And believe you me, there is definitely more normal ones. There's massive shades of grey in this movement. I think we've established that. Now, I told you before about old mate Brad, didn't I? Remember the guy with the chalk writing on the ground in Frankston, who I told you to remember? Righto. Well, just please enjoy.
Fuck this government, fuck all! Who's been taught over your fucking rats? Fuck all of them, fuck all! What are you doing? What are you doing, you fucking rats? Come back, come on! What are you doing there, Henry? You fucking traitor! You fucking traitor! I'm in a fucking toy, you fucking gap!
But so there was a cunt skating by. Woo! Open the fucking door, cunt! Dan Andrews is just inside. Like, it's just like a small office. I think it's Dan's house. He doesn't live there. Fucking face me, you fucking dog! I'll fucking get you, Dan, you fucking dog! Chaos! Brad was originally from Melbourne, yeah, but then he went up to Canberra, I think for the convoy to Canberra or something, and then he just never left. He's one of those, he's been living in car parks ever since, just fucking melting.
Out to fucking Canberra. We're gonna fight this fight against a rat. We've had a fucking coming against us all night tonight. And fucking someone yelling, we live in power, we live in, this is where we fucking live. This is where we fucking live. Fucking cold. It's fucking freezing. There's power in the house up there. We're the freemen who started this fucking freedom movement. If you're following this, if you like what we fucking do, seriously, where's it gonna fucking sink in or we've got to fucking fight this? It's all a fucking state thing. Get up to a fucking parliament. I'm sorry for the swelling, but when are you gonna fucking realise we're gonna do something? We know what is wrong, we know what is wrong. We're gonna sit here. Look at this, man. 4 months into this fight, nearly 5 months into this fight. Look at this. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars. Our fucking leader is over in that car. The fucking 65-year-old lady. When are you guys gonna grow some fucking balls? Seriously. When are you going to grow some fucking balls?
Here he is getting into a fight with some cunt in Canberra.
Hey! Hey! Right, I'm calling the cops, you fucking idiot! Get him! Get him now!
Brad is fucking wild. Man who's been driven by the swirling soul of chaos. It's within him. Suddenly he's in Melbourne. So we'll be returning to Brad later. Another interesting development from that day. You remember I mentioned Michael Gray Griffith as a little... well, look, he's not a little figurehead at all. He's got 100,000 followers on his Cathay Lockdown page. He is a big deal, that guy. Sexual assault allegations, you recall I said. Well, turns out, in the anti-lockdown movement, there is such a thing as cooker justice. Look, I did find out later, though. Apparently, he picked the fight. So it wasn't quite what I thought it was at the start. I thought, oh, is the movement doing something about its internal problems here in an effective, lasting way? Not really. Day 3, Sunday, 9th of October. What have we fucking got, mate? Let's go! Fans!
If you are a business owner and you haven't been to a tribe event yet, it is an amazing place.
This is Spanos shilling for his fucking business event.
What we're trying to do is create, through habit, create a process where people actually start circulating their money through small business and keep it away from large corporations.
Oh yeah, circulating money, eh, Fanos?
Fighting in the red corner, the powerful truth seekers of Australia!
Oh, it's Dan.
So much.
Oh no, it's a Dan impersonator.
Victorians. I am Daniel Andrews, the man, the myth, the science. I am
oh, it's a
today
freedom joke.
to correct
freedom gags.
And the far-right hateful bigotry I have been seeing of the loves and hugs among this community.
He's got some gags.
What do you reckon about tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
I reckon half as much as this.
Really? Isn't it the farmers tomorrow?
Oh, people are a bit pumped for the farmers, aren't they?
Yeah.
But people got to work. Some people.
Some people got to work.
Some people are going to work.
This is the weekend.
Sorrow, no tomorrow, no tomorrow. You can stick your climate change up your ass. You can stick your climate change. It's It's just bloody insane.
Oh, bloody insane. Hey, it's Brad.
We are the 99%. Singing we are the 99%.
Yeah, fucking oath.
You do the monkeypox bop. It's the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, plot everybody. Get ready for a shot. Do the monkeypox bop. Yeah. Do the monkeypox bop. Well, they do it at home, and they do it in the street. They do it so well, because they do it while they sleep. They do the monkeypox bop.
They're the most annoying cunts. So irritating.
I went to the Vic Markets today and I asked if I could buy something from the Vic Markets. They told me that they would not serve me unless I had a credit card or a debit card. They would not accept cash. My cash
Communism.
Constitution is the power. It protects us every hour.
But then the night came, and the music ended, and the chaos in Brad's veins began stirring. I'm not going to interrupt in this stuff. What follows, I'll just let you watch it. A little highlight reel I edited. Let's go.
Protest how I want. Too bad. Hey, you're a copper. You can't. Well, don't ban us from protesting, brother.
You can't tell people how to protest.
You can't tell people how to protest, man.
Don't keep on putting me on the cop.
Well, don't keep telling people how to protest. I'm from Melbourne, brother, as much as you are. We're on our way. We do well.
Getting arrested.
Oh, come on, man. Why getting all angry now? Brad, get your way.
I'm going to be honest, been a bit too much of this going on today, and I'm not fucking happy.
If it gets too
my
far.
point being is, he's had this person in the grey, I'm not sure who this person is, but he's had about 6 or 7 of the same conversations with police. The exact same conversation. What was that, mate?
What was that?
Oh, you told me something at the live stream there.
What are you standing there against us for?
Against us? What makes you think I'm against us?
Well, you're all standing there. This guy's here standing staunch and far, been staring me out for the last 15 minutes. Hang on a minute. Do you want us to move down there so we're not...
Mate, you know what my problem is? The way we're handling this over the last 2 hours. We've got people from the entire country coming, and look at the way we're behaving. And I'm an infiltrator. You fucking kidding me? Wow. Seriously, I'm the last person in the movement to call a fucking infiltrator. Don't start on me, mate. Do not start on me, because it's a mistake. You will make a mistake. I'm saying there's a way to do it. The right way and wrong way. What we're doing right, what we're doing now is the wrong way.
To protest, man. There's no need.
I don't know why. I'm just repeating myself for going back and forth on this before.
Do you want a candy cane?
Actually, I said I wouldn't pause it, but that's pretty fucking funny.
Hey Brad, how you going?
Very well.
Are you causing trouble, buddy?
No.
Fucking social you said he would. Why would you censor it? It doesn't need to be on the TV. There you go, mate.
No, the reason
away.
You always talk behind the camera.
Why would I put the camera away?
You always talk behind the camera.
Exactly, man.
Does everyone know who you are?
Yeah, they do.
Why?
Who are you?
Turn the camera on you, bro.
They know who I am.
Who are you?
Do they?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Put the camera on you, bro.
You don't know who this is, huh?
Camera
That's
on
all right.
yourself. No, man. What's your name,
Fuck
babe?
off.
What's your name, mate?
Yeah, this guy's a traitor to the
What
Australian
are you
people.
on? Yeah. I'll live stream you, bro.
Let's get a few views on your face, mate.
Got heaps.
Hello, people.
What's your name,
Fucking
World?
frontline
Word
freedom fighter
on
from
wheels.
Australia, fighting
Word
against
on
cowards like this behind the camera. You're a coward.
on
You won't
wheels,
even
yeah.
tell us your name, mate. Brad fucking Bevan. Who are you, brother? You coward motherfucker. Who are you coward motherfucker?
Give us your name, bro. Just give us your name.
Get your fucking hand out of my fucking face card.
Assault charge, motherfucker. You fucking rat cunt.
Don't, mate.
Let it go.
Put it in my face again and see what happens.
You're doing the same fucking thing.
Am I?
Right.
Look how fucking close it is. It's my arm out, Ray.
Ah.
How's your head from getting cracked, eh?
Very good, man.
Yeah.
Good, you done
But then,
some
what,
research.
then you go kick people on the
Good, you've
ground.
done some research.
Then you go kick people on the ground.
Done some research.
He's done
Hey?
some research.
Done some research.
Yeah, a lot of research.
Well, hey, we're just calling out how it is. We're calling out how
Here
it
we
is.
go, here this guy.
Oh, here he is, mate. Yeah.
Fucking kick on, I'll fucking kick on, boys.
Oh, mate. We're just talking, bro.
We're just talking, what are you doing?
mate. What are you doing?
I spent a long time telling this movement that you shouldn't jump into bed with every scumbag that you come across. They spent a long time denying that they'd even done that. They'd overcorrect in response, you know. They'd completely deny their own problems, the skeletons in their own closets, you know. You know, back then the shit people in their movement weren't an inconvenience to them. Oh, they were a problem for me or you or anyone that the scumbags targeted, but not the movement. Because they didn't have to worry, did they? They were getting 100,000 people, or up to there anyway. Lockdowns were crushing everyone. They had it all laid out for them. But now it's late 2022, and the movement's in decline. And they don't even have a point anymore. Now they have shitty people in their movement who aren't a problem for me. I think they're funny, bottom-of-the-barrel, dead shit scumbags. Don't get me wrong, it looks like they have fucking serious problems. I hope they get help. But it's not my problem. I just laugh at them in these videos. I don't care what they do. Not my problem. You know whose problem they are? Now they're the movement's problem. But the movement never learned how to say no, really, did it? Consequently, they're stuck letting, 3 or 4 fuckheads spoil the entire show for them. And this fate, being bitten in the arse by the problems that they refused to address back when it didn't affect them, you know what that's called? It's called karma. Yes, there's a day 3 or 4, whatever it is, but okay, listen. Basically, look, they all pretended to be farmers. Some fucking kook farmer. He got 2 tractors out for nothing. And then they went to some media buildings and blew in the telecoms. Even though apparently the media outlet they thought was there isn't even there anymore. You know what's notable is that everyone just walks around these rallies now. The press don't cover them because they happen so often and they aren't actually really demanding anything. Most people just turn their head and walk around them. I feel like they've lost all their capacity to shock or impress or even make people look at them. I think the movement probably could have avoided this by remaining in some way relevant or tactical or situational, but they haven't done that at all. They just pretend that lockdowns and mandates still exist, and they really don't. In fact, they're hiding the fact that these pandemic declarations and the like are already done from each other. You don't hear the speakers say that. So it's like they're lying in order to keep the traction going in their movement. The mission to Melbourne is a fizzer. It ended early on midday Tuesday, which is earlier than they said that it would, because they just didn't have enough people. So, ever the persistent lot, however, they already started focusing on the next chapter. Canberra. Again.
It's the nation's capital. It's the nation's capital. You don't see Americans going to Arizona to protest. You see they go to DC. The Canadians went to Ottawa. They don't go to Vancouver. You know, we should. You know, it's all good and well. We're doing the mission to Melbourne. That's great. But the fight is at the capital. That's a fact. That's a fact.
I don't know why you should come to Canberra. The elite built Canberra to protect themselves. Canberra's where the matrix needs to be broken.
They did what they came to do. They got the band back together, they reminisced, and they put Dan Andrews on maybe they didn't get to do that. Maybe they didn't actually do anything real. Yes, okay, fair enough, but they did have a good time together. And isn't that what it's all about with any protest movement? No, that's not what real protest movements are about at all. That's why this isn't a real protest movement.
This is mainly to the Australian men. If you're an Australian male, get up to Canberra. It's about time you fight for your country. Rise up, Australia.
Yeah, fucking be a real man and train wreck your life to go sleep at a car park in Canberra and stand outside buildings all day. Yeah. Be a real man and have all the light go out of your eyes and become a slave to the chaos god. Cheers, Brad. Thanks for your hard work, mate. And I genuinely hope for you, in all honesty, that you can find another chapter in your life that's slightly more orderly than this and involves some safe housing. With the generally disappointed reaction to some of the conflict that occurred inside the movement, the mission to Melbourne, And with posts like this becoming increasingly frequent from people I'd describe as, former leading figures and influencers in the movement, I'd say that it does feel like a bit of a death knell. Seems like they're all sick of the pests and the abusers that they've allowed to proliferate in their scene. I really admire and am envious of the energy they all brought to their movement. We've probably got a lot to learn from them in that respect. But they squander all that energy by being too cowardly to, in an organised, coordinated fashion, tell the worst cunts in their ranks, no, you aren't welcome. Sometimes you have to draw boundaries. Sometimes you have to draw the line. But anyway, they don't need me to tell them this kind of shit anymore. Their own movement does that.
They're not donation seekers. They're not freedom fighters or truth seekers. They're donation seekers. So that because they don't have jobs, most of these people don't have jobs, so they need a living, and it should not be at our expense or any vulnerable person's expense. A lot of the people that are following them are highly vulnerable, and it is disgusting. That's one of the reasons why I will not go to these protests anymore. And I started observing the leftists as well, the people that were actually targeting us, trolling us, and I'm like, they wouldn't be targeting us and trolling us for no reason. Let me understand their viewpoint. Maybe there's truth in what they're saying, because I know there's truth in what we're saying too. Why don't we find a way to meet in the middle?
I hope you enjoyed a return to my old school rally rundown style videos. If you're not on Twitter or Facebook, or if you're just a YouTube only follower of mine, you might not know this, but there's a whole range of accounts these days dedicated to documenting the worst and weirdest excesses of the various fungi growing off the corpse of the anti-lockdown movement. And I don't actually feel that I need to do so many of these videos these days because they exist now and have done for some time, and they do such a great job. I've listed a few of them on the screen here. Thank you to them, and apologies to any who I did not mention, because these aren't the only ones. But these are just some of the ones that I hit up the most regularly for up-to-date info on the fungi, and indeed they helped me to compile some of the elements of this video. Follow them if you want to stay abreast of the Cokes, because one thing's for sure, you have no idea how much time it takes, fucking days upon days, to compile something like this. No exaggeration. But if you do appreciate that very time-consuming work, then please hit me up at patreon.com/TomTanuki. Dare I say it, support the independents. Thanks.
That's a public building, so the doors are open.
So finally, we reject the New World Order and your symbolism. JFK died. Human society. Your high-level Freemasons are into some evil stuff.
No, it's public doors are open. The doors are open to the public.